Hi everyone. Today markets seem to have made a little bit higher high but pulled back slightly. Where can we find some levels of support? Let's take a look at the markets and the charts. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. Sorry for the late video today, but let's get into it. Fear and Greed Index finished at a 68 versus a 60, so big step up there. You can see on the timeline continuing to rocket up into that zone of resistance. Gonna hit extreme greed pretty soon. You can see extreme greed here. Strength and breadth really haven't moved a whole lot. Interesting to see that. Put call ratio cratered. It's actually hitting some really low levels. Extreme greed there for sure. Volatility pulling back and flattening out in that 14.7 area. Safe haven demand and junk bonds still in extreme greed and actually accelerating a little bit there on safe haven demand. Moving over to max pain, really very little change. Max pain for the Friday is still 576. Little bit of bullishness here through the end of the week. Some more calls coming into the market, raising that max pain level. Interesting to see that coming through. But then again, Friday still lower, about 3%. So a little bit of bullishness, and then we'll see if we get that follow through to the downside. Then moving over to the charts, starting off with the S&Ps, you can see did wick a new all-time high and then did pull back, finishing basically unchanged on the day, 57 cents higher. And then we fell a little bit more after hours. Looking at that 55 EMA here on the hourly chart, that is at 596.18. Momentum bearish, RSI bearish, pulling back a little bit more. Big selling volume there at the end of the day. If it gets back above that 599.64 level, then potentially we're headed to some higher highs. Momentum and RSI really haven't changed on the daily chart. You can see very slightly bullish, 0.1% on the day, nothing crazy. Still continuing to slow here, and it would not shock me to see this pull back a little bit more and then find some support and continue higher if it's going to do it. Otherwise, maybe we start to fill some of these gaps to the downside. Plenty of gaps on this rally. How much of those gaps are going to get filled in the short term still remains to be seen. Moving over to the Tasty charts, you can see we finally pulled back into the ATR bands. Now we can get a little bit of continuation if it's going to happen. The bands are also contracting here, which is a little bit concerning, and we are below that 8 EMA on the 4 hour, which is 598.26. Now we might see a little bit of washout here to that ATR trailing stop, 595.10. Again, not a whole lot of pullback, but it is about $3.50, a little bit more than 0.5% lower. See if we hold those support areas. If not, maybe we pull back to that lowest band. That's in the 590.95 area, and then we'll see what happens from there. Moving over to the NASDAQ, very similar thesis, except that it ended up negative on the day, 30 cents. You can see wide-ranging, choppy candles, finishing basically unchanged, just 30 cents. Off of that all-time high, which was 514.92. Now we have a new all-time high at 515.48. Pulled back from there very dramatically, and then finished a little bit more bearish here. Again, 55 EMA at 512, that's your zone of support. RSI, not great. Momentum, also not great. But looking at the daily chart, basically nothing has changed. RSI flat, momentum still bullish. And then looking at the Qs here on the Tasty charts, again, right on top of that 8 EMA at 513.69. ATR trailing stop did get tagged just briefly and then found support. Right now that is 510.74. Momentum bearish, not a ton of volume as you would expect on a Monday, but either way, still sideways choppy. Couple days in a row here now, waiting to see what happens. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, very different here. The Russell was up 1.5%, the Dow up 0.66, so much better on the bull side here. Gapped up right to the next level, broke through there. Looking for 244.46 as your next level. If this continues to push, we could see the trend line up here around 251.50 or so. Momentum still bullish, RSI very, very overbought, but it continues to gap and run. So got to play the markets you have. Continuing to look super bullish there on the Russell. Dow gapping, hitting these trend lines like we expected it to. Did find rejection there at the 443.30 area. That was the trend line we were watching. Hit those trends today, waiting to see if we reject from there. If we gap up, gap down, that's going to be a little bit bearish. Similarly, potential setup there as well. On the Russell, gap up, gap down potential, but I wouldn't expect it on the Russell because we did gap and run a little bit. This looks a little bit more concerning here on the Dow. Again, tons of gaps. If we start to show bearishness, maybe we start to fill those. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, both of these falling pretty substantially, 1.2 and 1.07% on the day. We talked about Apple looking a little bit bearish, lower high from that 21 EMA. Got a big pop on everything else with the election, but now we're starting to see some more sells. The low was much, much lower at 221.50, ended up bouncing slightly from this low consolidation. Didn't quite hit my trigger here for that lower low kind of fallout here, but either way, at this point, I would expect it to push push down to 217.62, did break my level on a closing basis. And then looking at Microsoft, same thesis here. Huge gap down, tried to retrace, looks like we're rejecting here back below all the EMAs and SMAs nearly. The 9 EMA is holding in there at 417.26, current price 418.01, but everything else we are below it. Momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. Microsoft looking like it might wash out here. We've been watching this for a long time as a potential downtrend. It's holding up really, really well, but is this finally the time where it starts to go? Certainly a possibility. Watching that there on Microsoft. I'm going to go ahead and put another alert here. Probably right there. Makes sense to me. Right in line with this kind of consolidation, break the level, we'll see if we get it. Moving over to Tesla and NVIDIA, Tesla up 8.96%. Most of that was on the gap and then doji, but massive run here. Volume continuing to be massive, momentum still massive. Broke all my levels here, really close to that all-time high. You can see up around the 400, 405 area. Seems like we're starting to get close to those levels. Now we have some levels to work with. You can see I added some here. So the next one would be 355.03. That marks the open of this kind of gap up rally here from March. Also marks some consolidation lows here through this other consolidation. So critical level there makes sense to me. And then I got the high of this just barely before this peak here. That is 369.33. And then we're going to be heading to these all-time highs if these levels start to break here. So we'll see. Right now, Tesla continues to look massive. Very, very powerful run over the past couple of weeks at this point. So see if it continues to play. And then NVIDIA here down 1.61%, retesting the level at 144.42. We'll see if it holds that level. This is kind of what we thought it was going to do. Test the level after the 3 powerful days of run. Now we're going to see if it can hold that level and continue higher, or if it's going to fill some of those gaps. So we didn't see what happens there. It's also the high of this consolidation. So momentum stepping down, RSI stepping down. Seems like it might fall a little bit more based on the indicators. Looking at Amazon and Alphabet, Amazon down 0.64. So we're rejecting off this trend line now. Momentum stepping down, RSI might pull back a little bit more. 8 EMAs is your support at 250 cents, just below my level at $200.55. Probably going to pull back a little bit more here. And then you got Google doing pretty good on the day, 1.17%, still holding the 179.42 level. Probably going to accelerate here to 185.22. Momentum bullish, RSI bullish. Might be watching this one. Let's go ahead and move that here. We'll see if we can get maybe a little bit better price, but if it breaks here, I think we're going to go to that 185. See how that plays. Alphabet looking like it's on a run here to the upside still. Moving over to staples and discretionary. Staples did fall after wicking those highs like we thought that it was going to. So we hit VWAP, hit the 21, hit the trend, and then pulled back, ended up negative on the day. Momentum still stepping to bullish. RSI still looks okay, coming off of the touch of the trend. So trend very much intact. Touched the low, rallied up, touched the high, pulled back. So we'll see if it continues back to this trend line here. Or the 144 is in there at 72.28. We'll see if that's a valuable area. Otherwise, discretionary is jumping here with Tesla driving markets. 2.02% momentum bullish, RSI bullish. This is new all-time highs, new price discovery, gap through the trends, gap through the levels. New all-time high is 220.39. Moving over to RIOT and Marathon, we got both of these jumping massive here today as Bitcoin continues to rally aggressive, hitting new all-time highs, I believe. We got RIOT jumping 16.8 and Mara 29.9%. Huge rallies, gaps and goes. Huge volume on these, momentum pushing, push through these levels. Mara's probably got some more in it, probably pushing to that 33 area, potentially over the next day or two. It is already super overbought, so that's a little bit concerning, but either way, this seems like it's got some more in it, in my opinion. RIOT's been doing it for a while, more than doubled already since these lows at the $6.50 up into the $14, $15 area. So we'll see how it plays. Broke these levels now. 1870 is the next one for RIOT. Moving over to Breadth. Breadth has stalled out here along with markets, kind of topping out in this area here, in my opinion. Just barely positive on both of these. Momentum staying positive. If we get another day or two of this, maybe this is going to flatten out and start to see it pull back slightly. Still would expect a higher low based on this move, but for now, might see that short-term pullback and see what happens after that. That's what I would be looking for. So maybe markets start to pull back slightly, but still looking for higher highs to come. Moving over to the dollar here just for a moment, I want to highlight that this continues to be an absolute rocket ship. Massive day here for the Monday. 0.5% higher, continuing higher already for the Tuesday candle. You can see continuing to go here those first 2 hours. Momentum not great, RSI not great. Maybe we get a little bit of a topping pattern here, but the dollar has been an absolute rocket ship. And that's definitely holding back stocks in my opinion. Maybe if this continues to run here, that's what gives equities a little bit of a pullback. But for now, it hasn't mattered, but it just continues to run. Moving over to my accounts, I managed to make about $230, so pretty good on the day, especially with the Qs actually being negative. The calls generated more profits than the shares lost, so you like to see that. And then you can see the Russell going up. I rolled up into the puts, and then I did roll here to a 241 for tomorrow's session for 70 cents. That did fall a smidgen after hours, but so far it's holding up okay. Probably somewhere in that 241.20 area, so maybe a slight pullback. Just being patient with that. If we do start to see some of those levels go, I'm going to take this off because I do think we might get some of those gap fills. But right now, the Russell continues to look very, very strong. So overall, cautiously bullish, but starting to see some signs of overextension. Let me know down in the comment section what you thought of the markets and the charts here today. Are we going to continue to go higher, or will we start to see some of those gap fills? Let me know down in the comment section. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of today's video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.